Well, folks, I can't believe I'm having to say this out loud in 2025, but I'll say it a little bit louder for those in the back. RFK Jr. is not an expert on autism, okay? And neither are the MAGA morons that are pushing his BS out into the world. And on that note, neither am I. I am no expert on autism, and no one should take their health advice from me either, okay? So I'm not just throwing him under the bus and saying he's uneducated and don't know about it. I'm saying for the most part, all of us are. But we're now having to listen to this dude who is in charge of health and human services, and it's absolutely terrifying that a man who sounds like your drunk uncle at the end of the bar who just spouts every conspiracy theory that his drunk brother forwards him in an email is the guy in charge and calling the shots. It's truly terrifying. And I saw some jackass on the internet say, boy, I sure applaud RFK for having the conversation about autism. And I'm sitting there thinking, I would applaud him too if he knew what he was talking about. But instead, he just goes out and proves to us that, yeah, the worm really did eat his brain. Take a look at this first clip, and then we're going to try to plow through some more of this insanity.
This is an individual tragedy as well. Autism destroys families. More importantly, it destroys our greatest resource, which are our children. These are children who should not be suffering like this. These are kids who, many of them were fully functional and regressed because of some environmental exposure into autism when they're 2 years old. And these are kids who will never pay taxes, they'll never hold a job, they'll never play baseball, they'll never write a poem, they'll never go out on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted. And we have to recognize we are doing this to our children.
Now, I will say that there are those out there who suffer from severe cases of autism, and what RFK Jr. said there is true in certain cases. But the way that he goes about painting this with such a broad brush, and the fact that he's painting it to uneducated people, they're going to take this and spread it all around, not realizing what a spectrum that autism is and that there's different levels of it. You see, MAGA has no common sense as to how to dissect something and break it down. They're just going to hear these severe talking points, and they're going to think that that's what autism is. They're not going to take any understanding of the entire spectrum, and if they did, they're only going to listen to stuff that people like him and Donald Trump and other morons that knows nothing about it are going to say. And that's what I feel is the most dangerous part about this guy having the conversation. He's the last guy that should be having it because he has absolutely no experience whatsoever in this department. And he proves it even further by what he says next.
But it doesn't take you to read the literature. It just takes a little common sense. If autism, if the epidemic is an artifact, a better diagnostic criteria or better recognition, then why are we not seeing it in older people? Why is this only happening in young people? I asked Walter before we came out here, I said, have you ever seen anybody our age? I'm 71 years old with full-blown autism, head banging, nonverbal, non-toilet trained, stimming, toe walking, these other stereotypical features. Where are these people walking around the mall? You can't find them. They're not in homes. There are no homes for them. There are no institutions for them. Why are we seeing them on the street? Anybody can look around and see that this is a canard.
What he fails to realize is that a whole lot of people in his age bracket weren't properly diagnosed because people back then didn't understand what it was, and so they didn't get the proper diagnosis, therefore they didn't get the proper care, and therefore they didn't live the long life that RFK Jr. was lucky enough to have lived. The guy is so completely out of touch with all this. He's clearly up there just doing a guessing game, and it's an absolute insult to everyone involved. Autism is a spectrum that has been studied for years. The reason why that their logo is the puzzle piece is because they're still trying to put together the pieces of the puzzle, and now they've got this guy telling them, oh, that's okay, I'll have it figured out by September. We'll know what it is. We'll know exactly what caused it for everybody, not understanding that it's different in a case-to-case basis. The guy is completely uneducated on all of this, and now he's the one calling the shots. And to all the people out there who have spent a lifetime dedicated to studying autism and trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, all he's doing is completely shitting on all of their research, because now he's going to have a bunch of morons out there spreading all of their information around, and they'll all go out there and spread it around completely unchecked. And if we check them, and if we call them out, and if we say it's BS, they'll whine, they'll pout, they'll say that it's fake news, they'll say that it's liberal propaganda, they'll say that we're trying to take away their right to free speech. I am not trying to take away RFK Jr.'s right to free speech. He's free to believe whatever stupid shit he wants to believe, and he's free to say it out loud. But that guy should have never been near a position of power, especially when it comes to our health, and he should not be the one leading the conversation on autism when he clearly knows nothing about it. All it does is just unravel all the research that's been done thus far. All it does is just make life harder for those that go through it. That's all it does. Because now you got a bunch of uneducated people going to be spewing a bunch of uneducated garbage and pushing it out there further into the world. And when people like us tries to stand up and be the voice of reason in it, we'll just get shouted down because we're trying to be mean to them. And that's why I'm so sick of MAGA in general. I'm so sick of the whole thing. It's because there was a time in American history where if someone stood up and said something factually inaccurate, you could call them on it, and they pretty much just had to stand there and eat a plate of crow. But now Donald Trump empowered all of them to be wrong all of the time. And if you call them out on anything, well, you're just the bad guy for calling it, and they have every right to say it. And I wouldn't be one bit shocked to see RFK Jr. go on Joe Rogan again and just sit there for 3 hours and just spew this bullshit, and Joe just let him say it unchecked. And that is why we're in the mess we're in today, is because every other day when a news story breaks, suddenly everybody's an expert on the subject, and it's people like that in charge. And out of all the Trump cabinet members, I've said this before, out of everybody out there, RFK Jr. is the one who makes my blood boil the most, because they're all bad. None of them know what they're talking about. None of them were qualified for the job. They're all, for the most part, terrible people. But this guy here clearly wasn't qualified. And what he's in charge of is our health, and that should never be political. But unfortunately, it has become that way. And now, anytime he speaks on any of it, there's going to be people who is going to believe it to be gospel. And they got upset with him a while back. They got upset with him when he said that the measles vaccine was the best way to fight the measles. They got upset and said, that ain't why we voted for you. That's not why we wanted you in there. We wanted you in there so you would completely question science and tear it all down. They didn't want him to ever take advice from science. So he's not going to. He's just going to sit there and quote studies that someone sent him, or quote something that he read on the internet. And that's no different than most of the people that you work alongside of. That's no different than the people you go to school with or went to school with. It's the same thing. Now all these people are autism experts, and it's truly disgusting to sit back and watch. And I can't imagine what it would be like to be in a family dealing with it, and then now the conversation comes up, and you're having to sit there and debunk everything that's being spread around thanks to this jackass. I tell you this much, I'm never going to be healthy, though, as long as RFK Jr.'s around, because every time that I get done making videos about him, I have to go have a glass of scotch and a cigar. So that's why my voice sounds more raspy these days. I tell you, this world is just absolutely... George Carlin one time said we're circling the drain. I think if he was here today, he would probably say that we're all floating on a big turd in the sewer at the moment, because it's just, this is where we're at, and it's because Donald Trump handed over the reins of power in every corner of our lives to the most uneducated, unqualified, and just disgusting human beings that he could have. So we'll keep trying to call it out. We'll keep trying to be the voice of reason, but it's sure not going to be easy in a world with RFK Jr. leading the conversation. The guy shouldn't be leading any conversation anywhere unless it's some corner of a lounge somewhere where him and a couple of drunk buddies are just sitting there and the rest of us can get up and walk away from it. But I truly do appreciate y'all's support here on the channel. I'll try to keep it together. I'll try to talk about RFK Jr. and not become a blithering drunk, but I can't necessarily make any promises. I truly do love y'all. We're trying to get to 1 million subscribers, so if you haven't hit that subscribe button, it doesn't cost anything. Go ahead and hit it, and let's get to 1 million before RFK Jr. causes me a stroke.